Practice 8-5, factoring trinomials of the type x squared plus bx plus c. So if you remember a couple of lessons ago, we learned about FOIL, which is how you multiply binomials. So if you have x plus 3 times x plus 2, you would do first, outer, inner, last, and you would end up with x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 6. And when you add your like terms, you would end up with x squared plus 5x plus 6. So when they talk about x squared plus bx plus c, the b represents the number in front of the x, and the c represents the last number that has no x attached. So when we factor it, what we're basically doing is we're taking this multiplied binomial and turning it back into its factors, into its binomials in the parentheses. Okay, so how you would do that is you would look at your last number and look for two numbers that multiply to equal the last number, but add to equal the second number. So let's give this a try. So for number 1, we have x squared plus 8x plus 16. So we're going to look at this last number and look at its factors. So we can do 1 times 16, 8 times 2, or 4 times 4. And we're going to add these and see which one equals this second number. So 1 plus 16 is 17, 8 plus 2 is 10, and 4 plus 4 is 8. So that means these are the two numbers. So that means when we separate these back into the parentheses, we are going to have x plus 4, this one right here, and x plus 4, which is this one right here. So this is going to be our final answer. Okay, so now we have a squared plus 2a plus 3a plus 2. So we're going to look at this 2 and factor it. So there's only two numbers that multiply to equal 2, which is 2 times 1, and when we add them, they equal 3. So that works out. So we're going to make our two parentheses. We're going to start off with our first letter or number, which is a. And since the second sign is a plus sign, and we have a plus sign over here, we have two pluses, and we are going to put in our two numbers, 2 and 1. So a plus 2 and a plus 1. And this is our final answer. So for number 7, we have a minus over here and a plus over here. So since a negative times a negative equals a positive, and a negative plus a negative equals a negative, that means when we make our two parentheses, we're going to have two minus signs. Okay? And since this is x squared over here, our first number in each parentheses is going to be x. So now we're going to look at this 12 and see which two numbers will add to equal negative 8. So let's go down here. So we have 12. So we have negative 2 plus negative 6. We have negative 4 plus negative 3. And we have negative 12 plus negative 1. So when we add these, this equals negative 8. This equals negative 7, and this equals negative 13. So we are looking for negative 8, so that means our two numbers are negative 2 and negative 6. So in here, we are going to put 2 and 6, and this is our final answer. So for number 10, we are looking for two numbers that multiply to equal 10 and add to equal 7. So for 10, we have 1 times 10, and if you add them, that equals 11. And we have 2 times 5, and if you add that, that equals 7. So when we factor these, we have x plus 2 and x plus 5. And this is your final answer. Okay, so number 13, our last number is 20, and what that means is we want to figure out what factors or what two numbers multiply to equal 20 and add to equal 9. So we have 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 5 times 4, and that's about it. So 1 plus 20 is 21, 2 plus 10 is 12, and 5 plus 4 is 9. So these are our two numbers, 5 and 4. So when we make our two parentheses, our first one is going to be x, so we are going to put in x, and then we put in these two numbers, 5 and 4. So we have x plus 5 and x plus 4. And this is our final answer. Number 16. So we are looking for two numbers that add to equal 7 and multiply to equal 12. So let's look at our factors of 12. We have 3 and 4, 2 and 6, and 1 and 12. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and that's it. We have 3 and 4. So we're going to make our parentheses. One is going to be x plus 3, and the other is going to be x plus 4. And this is our final answer for 16, but ignore this 12 over here. So for number 19, we have a squared plus 2a minus 35. So what it means when we have a minus as the last sign is that we have one positive number and one negative number. So we have one plus and one minus. So we're looking for two numbers, one positive and one negative, but when you add them, they equal positive 2. So let's see, we have 1 and 35, or negative 35, negative 1 and positive 35, negative 7 and positive 5, and positive 5 and negative 7. So, no, negative 5 and positive 7. So when we add these, this equals negative 34, this equals positive 34, this equals negative 2, and this equals positive 2. So we're looking for the one that equals positive 2. So that means we have negative 5 and positive 7. So over here where we have the positive, we're going to put a plus 7, and then a minus 5. And this is our final answer for number 19. For number 22, once again, we have a negative and a negative. So what that means, anytime you have a negative or a minus sign in front of the last number, you always have one plus and one minus. So we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to equal negative 60 and add to equal negative 11. So we have 2 and 30, 4 and 15, we have 6 and 10, anything else? That's about it. So if we look at this, this is negative, the first one, which means that the larger number of these are going to be negative. So 2 plus negative 30 is negative 28. 4 plus negative 15 is negative 11, and 6 plus negative 10 is negative 4. So we're looking for the negative 11, which means that we have 4 and negative 15. So the 15 goes with the minus, and the 4 goes with the plus, and the first one in each parentheses is going to be this x. So we have x plus 4 and x minus 15. And this is our final answer for number 22. So for number 25, we have a plus sign over here and a minus over here, which means we're looking for two negative numbers, because when you multiply two negative numbers, they multiply to equal a positive number, and when you add them, they equal a negative number. So we have negative 4 and negative 16. We have negative 2 and negative 32. We have negative 8 and negative 8. And I think that's it. So if we have negative 4 plus negative 16, that's negative 20. Negative 2 plus negative 32 is negative 34. And negative 8 plus negative 8 is negative 16. So if we look at this, we're looking for negative 16, which means we have 8 and 8. So we have y minus 8 and y minus 8. And this is our final answer. Okay, last one, we have x squared minus 11x plus 28. So once again, we're looking at two negative numbers. So 28, we have 128, we have 2 and 14, and 4 and 7. So let's add these. So this equals 29, this equals 16, and this equals 11, which is the number that we're looking for, this 11. So we are going to use minus 4 and minus 7. So we have x minus 4 and x minus 7. And this is your final answer for number 28. And that is it for practice 8-5.